ago for like $700 or $800, and now it's selling for like 3,000.
Cool. I like Jerry Orwell does that too, or Oldway does that too. He likes to sign his stuff in the boards. Hello, YouTube. This is BUB'S Comics. We're live on the No Faces comic chat. DS Comics provided our name this week. So
Everybody who follows our chat knows that I don't pick the names, so I don't take any credit, and I also don't take the blame.
With just an amazing amount of confidence and excitement. So go ahead and share with everyone what the name is this week. I know you're excited.
The Hey You Guys Comics Sloths.
The Hey You Guys!
Awful.
Oh, I think it's great. I don't know why. I think you did a real good job this week picking our name.
Well, thanks, man.
I'm super proud of you.
Awesome.
The Gray Man says, hello, No Faces chat. Now, let's see what else we got. I don't know. Mine seems to load kind of slow on the chats. I don't seem to always get them as fast as you do. You and Roger, your chat bubbles seem to come up faster than mine. No. Roger's not with us tonight. He is he had postponed, I think, an evening. I'm pretty sure it was his anniversary that he had with his wife, and they had to postpone it because they had all that family stuff going on. And so they postponed it, and then this weekend they are finally going to have it. So he's off either coming home from that or hanging out doing that kind of stuff. So we wish him well. He may or may not be in the chat. He's probably been sending me messages asking me where the link was, but he said he wasn't going to be on tonight, so I didn't send it. So
all right, so it's just going to be you and me again, right?
Yep, just the two of us. Well, we can make it if we try.
We definitely can. That's true. Yeah, we did it a couple of weeks ago. We did it, same thing. So, yes.
Yeah.
We've got 5 people watching so far. I just see the Gray Man. Hello, Gray Man.
Yep. Everybody's checking it out. I didn't do much advertising on this one tonight. Just kind of got busy with work. We had a new person starting today, so it was a lot of, work for me to give them something to do to warrant their salary. So,
well, that's why that warrants your salary when you do stuff like that. So that's why you make the big bucks so you can afford all these comics.
You'd think so. Well, cool. Tonight I don't think I'm going to be showing off any big books unless it's by accident. I'm just going to show off a bunch of books that are kind of, they're like, I don't know, pretty rough books. That I have like a pile of books that when I buy these collections to sell, like flip collections, then I usually will pick up a rather large group, and then there's always some that I keep and some that I flip, but not every book is even worth flipping. I mean, I'm not going to get a book and try and get 50 cents or $1 out of it if it's not a book that commands at least $10 on a standard market. Then I'm not even going to fool with it. So those books kind of end up in this stack of books that I don't know what else to do with. So they're books I'll like give away, or if a kid comes over, I'll say, here, kid, step into my room and take this book, something like that, something along those lines.
Yeah, I've got a whole stack of books like that. I've sold a bunch of books. I have some left, but they're, honestly, if I sold them, I could get, a couple bucks. But, I mean, you can't list them online and charge shipping. That's more than the cost of the book. And, I don't have enough to go rent a table at a con or anything. So I just have some books here that are really cool books, but they're not worth a ton. So I give them out here and there. And I don't really know what I'm going to do with them. But I've got, decent little stack of books here that are not worth a whole lot, but I would move them. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't do contests. Anybody who watches my channel or is on this YouTube community knows I don't hold contests. I don't participate in the contests. Not against them. I have very limited time. I don't even have time to make my own videos for my own channel every week. I know some people make videos several times a week. I try to watch videos that I can, comment when I can, and try to put out some content, and that's about all the time I have for it. So I may donate some of these to Reggie. He's doing like a trivia night. Have you seen that, Bub?
I haven't participated in it. I've caught the beginning and like the middle and the end of it, but never all on the same night.
Yeah, I watched it the other night, and it was pretty popular. There was quite a few people in the chat for that trivia live show. He gave away some cool books, so I told him I was going to donate some of these books to him that he can give back to the community that way through the prizes for his trivia. So
I think that's a great idea. I think I'll do that too. I've got a bunch of these and some people would really like these. I just don't really fit in my collection. I mean, this is kind of a Hulk zombie kind of cover. Somebody out there is like, oh, wow, that's cool. I think it's okay, but it's not really my thing. So somebody may just love it.
Well, let me grab. I've got this box here. I'm going to grab them and I'll just throw some up. I don't even know what's in here. I have some scattered about, but I've got a box here that has some in it. Let's just see what I've got here. And go ahead and keep people entertained. I got to pull the headphones out for a second and get this fixed up.
All right, I'll keep them entertained. No, I don't think that's going to work. A couple of these here are, well, this backdrop is my new backdrop. We're going to be using that for this week anyway. And then going forward, I'll be switching back and forth to other backdrops. Like once a week, I'll change what's back there as opposed to the Hulk 180 and the Hulk 181 always being there. I never get tired of seeing those books, but I kind of do get tired of having them in my videos all the time. So I kind of moved them. So that's what's going on there. What else? Roger's not with us tonight. He's busy, but we wish him well, and hopefully he'll show up in the chat at some point. Watched a couple of good videos today. DS had a good video today on the Comic Link, I think.
Yes, Comic Link.
Or was it Comic Link or Heritage? I get them confused.
Comic Link. Heritage does auctions every week. That's too often to do previews and recaps. And I'm not really friends with Heritage anymore because their buyer's premium is too high, and I just sort of boycotting them. But, you know, I'll probably do a preview and a recap for their featured auctions because those are huge. But Comic Link every month is awesome, and I participate in it. I buy stuff off them. I think they're really top-notch. They're the top comic book auction site right now. So
that's cool. It was a pretty good video. I think I commented on it. There was one on there. I commented on it mostly so that I could remember the name of it without having to rewatch the video. Like, you know, like if I'm like, oh, what was that one book that DS showed that I really liked and I'd like to get? Now all I have to do is go to the video and then look in the comments and I'll see which book I liked.
Yeah, Dark Mysteries 19.
Yeah.
It has the girl strapped really to the wheel that's like she's bound
like
to
rack,
the wheel.
Right?
Yeah, it's like a rack on a wheel where I guess the skeletons are cranking the wheel around and it's going to go across some spikes or something. So it's like a torture device. There's quite a few Golden Age books that have that theme. Not quite a few. I mean, less than 10, but more than 5 probably. And that's the most notorious one. And that's really a top 10 pre-code horror book. And you don't see it very often, so to even see it in that auction was pretty cool. But yeah, that's a super cool book. That's on my list to pick up at some point.
I like the way that one of the skeleton guys was kind of just, everyone else is kind of working. You know, they're working the rack or they're paying attention and they're making sure they're getting all the torture that they can. But then this one skeleton was just kind of reaching for her thigh. And that to me was like the most striking part, that just the skeleton was just reaching for her. And that was probably the scariest part. I mean, the rack's the rack. Anybody can do that. But the fact that some creepy skeleton's going to start grabbing your thigh, that's a rough part, you know?
Yeah, a lot of those covers have, I think the creepiest part of some of those covers is the stuff in the background or around the edges or where there's a shadow of something that you can't see. That leaves a lot to the imagination or, you know, the suspense of what's going to happen next in this scene. That's what's really cool about those covers. I did that recap, and there was one that stands out as sort of the opposite to me, but it's just my personal taste. But that one crime, I think it's a crime suspense stories from EC, where it's just got the guy hanging. And, yeah, it's just a guy hanging, and his eyes are rolled back. And there's a shadow on the wall, but you know, that's just in your face. There's a guy hanging and his eyes are rolled back and he's dead, hanging from in the noose. You know, that doesn't do a whole lot for me, but that's obviously a gruesome cover. So it's pretty coveted by PCH collectors, but I like the stuff that leaves a little more to the imagination or has some stuff in the background or some shadows creeping in from the edges. That's the stuff I really dig.
Yeah, that suicide cover where the guy up in the foreground, he appears to be getting shot by someone else. And then in the mirror behind the lady in the background, you can see that he's actually got the gun turned on himself, and that's actually his arm, and he's shooting himself. And that's really trippy.
Yeah, that one's better than the hanging cover. And really, it's the scene in the mirror, I think I mentioned in my video, is what I like the most about that cover is the scene in the mirror and the back of the image where you can see his brains flying out of his head, essentially. But yeah, the art, the main picture there, the figure of him shooting himself, the way the arm is drawn, it almost looks like it is somebody else. And I've looked at that so many times trying to figure if the proportions are right. And I think they are. I think the reason that looks a little off is just because the elbow is out of the frame. So you see the arm going out, and then you see another arm coming in, and you can't see where those two pieces are connected by the elbow. But I think the proportions are right. But it's just,
they are. There's also
a little off. I know what you're saying.
There's also a slight color difference in the sleeve of the other arm, of the arm that's coming at him. There's also a slight. It's like, but then as you're looking at it more, you realize it's just kind of a shadow or a shade.
Right.
And then you realize, oh, that is the same shirt. It is a shirt that he's wearing. But it's funny how those details are just enough to push you into what you're already assuming is the case. And then you see that background and you realize, wait a minute, this is a complete twist. And all that happening on the cover, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I've never owned that book, and I've never inspected it closely. I mean, I've seen it around, but I've never held it and looked at it or owned it. But Dr. Von Chilla a couple months ago showed that book. And he specifically pointed that out, and that's where I first noticed it, was when he pointed it out. And all of a sudden, that cover became much more interesting to me, as a book to possibly own than it did before. But what was interesting, both of those are sort of like in your face, just gruesome, violent scenes. They're not, my cup of tea for pre-code horror type books. But it's interesting to see some of the prices in the auctions. It's really hard to keep up with prices on books in this category. The one with the suicide cover went for like $500, and the hanging cover went for like $1,300. Both in the same grade, both ECs, both the same title, and a huge discrepancy in price. That's unexplainable to me. Both of those books are equally good to me. I don't see a difference one or the other. It'd be cool to own. So yeah, I don't know. Just if anybody's into that stuff, Comic Link is a great place to check out, and you can see some of the stuff in my video. But really, my video doesn't do that justice because there's so many books. I tried to record that video the first time, and I ended up stopping halfway through because it was at like 15 minutes. I hadn't even gotten through half the books that I had pulled from that auction. Yeah, so there's just so much stuff. So I had to trim it down. There's so much stuff that got lost that I wasn't able to show, but really, really cool stuff. And it's affordable. I mean, people have this impression that Golden Age stuff is through the roof, super expensive. I mean, it's pricey, but I mean, people are out there buying Hulk 181s and Werewolf by Night 32, ASM 300. You can get that. And what is it? 9.6 is like $1,000 now. You could have picked up, one of these huge, awesome pre-code horror books for half that. So it's, it's all relative, but if you're going to spend some money on books, I like spending it on those. But there was quite a few in that auction. There were solid books, mid-grade, pre-code horror, Golden Age type stuff for like $200. Surprising.
I think one of the things that, for me, when I look at the pre-code stuff, there's a couple of things that always jump out at me. And that's that almost every book, it's not like you're going to see these books in dollar bins. So when you're hunting for these books, it's a much more, all-encompassed search. Far more so than, if I'm looking for a Secret Wars 8, I have my pick. I can buy them on almost every website. I can get them from almost every auction's going to have one thrown up there. The price is going to range anywhere from $50 to $100, depending on what condition it's in. But you can find it anywhere, and there's a chance that your local comic shop has them, and you might even, in rare occasion, find them in a dollar bin, like Deadpool 23 found 20 of them in a garage sale.
Right,
I mean, that can happen with those superhero, more modern books. You are just not going to find, a huge box a pre-code horror anywhere. You know, it's just, you're just not going to stumble across it. It's not at your local shop. It's not in your dollar bins. Even if you try and buy them online, they're going to be super expensive. And, you know, it's just that age, I think. And once you hit 1950 and before, good luck not spending $50 minimum for a rag. So I think that's when, you know, it's a completely different kind of collecting, you know?
Well, it is a different kind of collecting. And I'll tell you what, I basically have moved on from collecting superhero books. That's mainly what I collected for a long time. But it takes some getting used to if you're going to start collecting Golden Age or pre-code horror type stuff, because essentially how I do it is I don't say, hey, I'm going to save up enough and get Giant Size X-Men #1 and then try to figure out what grade I want and save up enough for it. I basically will save up money, and I have a list of books that are like huge grails, and then I have a book of like just not run of the mill, but lower awesome books that are not going to be super grail prices. And, you know, I'm working off 2 lists, and I'll try to save up enough to get something on the first list, but I don't know what I'm going to get. So the money I'm saving is going towards a book that I don't even know what's out there yet. And it probably hasn't even come up for sale yet. And then, you know, when I have enough, I'll start looking seriously. I'll check out auctions, and then it's a challenge to find any of them. And then it's an exciting search because I'm always surprised by what I get. It's like I'm going to get something and I don't know what it is until like the day of, and I'll save up and get a nice budget. And then I'll look at the list. I'll see what's out there coming up on auctions, and I'll see 2 on the list are coming up for auctions in the next month, and I'll bid on them. And sometimes you don't get any of them, but sometimes I'll get one, or one will pop up on eBay or, you know, wherever. And then I'll have the budget and I'll get it. So you never, but again, it's not like you're collecting runs or keys or first appearances or #1 issues. It's totally different type of collecting. And it's like you sort of just piece together the books that you personally like, and it's one big gigantic run of books from different titles that is a bigger picture of what you like. It's not like superhero collecting at all, and it's tough to find, and you just have to save up, and you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and hope that it's something that you can afford. Is funny because I could see someone saving like that, and then they have, you know, shoot, if you're not, especially if you can avoid all the dollar comics and all the little small comics that you don't really need, but you just feel like picking up because you haven't bought anything in a week kind of stuff. I think we've all been there. But then you end up spending just enough money to where when that big book does come across you, you're a couple $100 short of where you want it to be. And now you can't get it, you know?
So that's what happens to me. My stumbling block is at $500 now. I have no problem getting up to $500. It takes the same amount of time every time to get up to $500. And it's not instantaneous. It takes, you know, weeks to save it. I have to skim off money from my paycheck. I have to flip some books or whatever. But once I get up to 500, that's no problem. I can get right up there, same amount of time every time. Once I get to 500 and start going beyond that in my budget, invariably I find something that's 500 or below that I just can't live without, and I want it, and I buy it. So I have a lot of good books, but it's tough. At 500 is my stumbling block. If I could just blast through that, and then, you know, there's a second stumbling block is like 1,000, which takes a good bit more time to save up. But once I get to 1,000, then I don't want to spend any of it. It's easier then because, man, I've got a lot. I'm almost there. I don't want to spend anything. So yeah, it's fun. It's challenging. It takes some time. It takes discipline too, because I don't buy like dollar bin. I don't go to the LCS anymore at all. There's a lot of cool books out there that I like that I don't even look for because I don't want to be tempted.
Yeah. I end up just kind of looking around, and I get pretty good. I get to a point where I'm somewhere around probably 300 is my stumbling block. Once I get to 300, most of the books that I'm after are between 500 and 700 at this point. And so when I get to 300, I'm like, man, I'm just barely halfway there. And I haven't bought anything in like a week, maybe 2 weeks. I'm ready to pick up some small keys. And then I can start picking up some minor keys that I've been, you know, eyeing or interested in. And then slowly it works all the way back down to $100. And then I have to reinvest that to get it to build again. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. I keep going back and forth.
Yeah,
I stumble around 300.
Another thing I do that really helps raise money is I think everybody out here in this community has a fair amount of books. I think most people probably have more books than me. honestly. But I'll go through my collection on a regular basis and try to pare it down and see. There's some stuff I bought that I really liked it when I bought. It's kind of faded a little bit. I'm not, so in love with it anymore. And it's like, eh. And I think, how much could I get for this? And then I put a stack of, even a few books together. I'm like, what can I get for these? And I think what would be a reasonable amount. And I'm like, man, I could use that to get something I really love. And there's a couple things I'm looking at. And it's sort of liberating when you sell some books, because some people, we have, as comic collectors, have a tough time selling anything. But once you sell some and raise some funds to buy something you absolutely love, it's liberating, and it's sort of, it makes you trust your instincts to sell some stuff, and it makes it, I don't know, it raises some money, you get stuff you love more. And it also generates extra space. Space is a problem for collectors. I know you're running into that problem. So you're going to be faced with this soon. You're going to have to sell some books, and you're going to go through the process. And probably when you do it, you'll be stressed out and have anxiety at first. But then once you get some money coming in from stuff you're selling to put into bigger books, and just other stuff that you're into now, you'll be like, hell yeah, this is great. And you'll like selling. You'll go looking for, what else can I sell? What other stuff can I make some money off of to buy some new books? So I don't know. It seems to be a sort of evolution that most collectors go through at some point. Some people, they go through it within the first few years of collecting. Some people takes 30 years before they get to that point. But it seems like most people get to a point where their tastes change and they start paring their collection down, and just going after a select few books that they love instead of having tons of books that they like.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm definitely reaching my space limit and my wall limit. It's like, if I'm running out of room in my if I'm running out of room in my collection, then I can always throw a few on the wall, but that doesn't really make a lot of space.
Oh, right.
Here and there, it's about the worst way to make space, right? So then the other issue that I have is that if I have in my filing cabinet, my lateral filing cabinet, I've got approximately room for 300 books. Now, one of those spaces that would be the size of a short box is taken up by some trade paperbacks and some hardcovers, and basically just books, and a couple of supplies. And the rest is all comics. So I have probably about 2,800 or more comics to fill, space to fill. And I'm pretty close. I'd say I'm probably just 100 or so away. So really have to slow down my overall collecting if I'm going to keep it in there. So the last time, just yesterday, my wife and I went through it, and we made room, moved things around, reshuffled, reorganized, and I got every book that I've purchased put away. And that was great. I mean, what a huge feeling. The room was clean again. Yep. Everything was like a fresh slate. And I just didn't even want to, change it. Like, I don't want to buy a book, because I'm afraid that it'll mess up the room again, just make a mess. So I'm probably going to slow down here fairly soon.
Fairly soon. All right. Well, I mean, you've got far more books than I do at this point, my friend. I've got I've got 6 long boxes, but 2 of them are completely empty now. And then I've got 2 other bins that are half full, and I've got a bunch of graded stuff. So all my stuff fits on 2 shelves of a shelving unit that I bought and put together. Pretty solid unit. It's one of these steel constructed ones that has like wood shelves that you put in.
Yeah.
And I've got everything in my collection. It's got 4 shelves, and it's a pretty big, sturdy unit, but it's, I don't know, it's like 6 feet tall and maybe 4 feet wide. And my entire collection, everything, trades, reference books. I even have room on the top shelf for my printer, and I've got all my books on there, and everything is on that against the wall. So I had stuff spread out all over before, and I've gotten to the point where everything is contained, and it's so nice. I come down here, I know where everything is. I don't have a ton of books, but all the books I have, it's sort of a very dense collection. Everything I have, I absolutely love, and it's a solid book. But there's a flip side to that too. I don't really have a bunch of new books to show, on tags on Instagram or different topics for YouTube. I don't have a whole lot to show. I could show all my books in one video, and then that would be it. So, there's a flip side to it. There's, not as much to share with the community, but, it is what it is. I'm happy with it.
Well, for me, I enjoy the community, I'm sure, as much as anybody does. But part of it for me is that I like to show what I've done. I don't feel like I have to do anything more just to have something to show. In fact, I've picked up probably 100 books in the last month that I haven't shown because I didn't think they were really worthy, unless I put up a book and someone's like, oh, I would like to have that. That's a pretty cool book. Then I probably wouldn't even bother, Not that I'm not proud to own them. They're just like, run fillers, nothing spectacular, just books here and there. And if I get around later some other time, I'll show them. But for the most part, I don't bother,
Yeah, I hear you. I usually show all the books that I pick up at some point in the video. I've got some books I probably haven't shown before, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to come up with some other content. I've got some other ideas. It's just the time restraints of putting out content. And then it's the money restraints of buying books that I want. So, my collection is like a turtle style collection. It moves slowly, but eventually it'll get there. So, but I've got this box of books. You want to see some of these books I've got that I just don't feel like they're worth selling, but I just haven't given them away yet.
Yeah, let's see them. I just realized this book doesn't belong in here. That's a book I meant to keep. I guess I put it in the wrong. I misfiled.
Yeah, that's got Wolverine on the cover. You're keeping that one.
Yeah, that's a number 2 of 3. I have number 1, so I'm only missing the 3rd one. So, oops. I have to make sure I pull that out and keep it. Like this one, this is in a lot of comics that I bought, and they were really cool Superman comics, and I kept them all, but I have no use for this. Superman Adventures, Jimmy Olsen up front and center. It's not mine. It's not for me.
Well, I'll tell you, there's somebody out there probably working on a Superman Adventures run that needs that one to fill their run, because I know like the Batman Adventures, the Superman Adventures, there's people that collect full runs of those. And I'm sure there's somebody out there looking for that book for just a run filler for their run of that title, and they don't have it.
Well, I hope they know where to find me, because I've got it. If you need it, I've got it.
Well, we're a little late on the chat, so may not be anybody here to see it tonight, but Comic Geek McD is here. Area 51. The Gray Man is still with us. And
thanks for hanging tough, Gray Man.
Bad Dad 320 was here. I hope he's still here. He was checking in.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a few people.
Danola Comics and Games.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Okay, that was earlier. Yep. Probably still here. So and Bueller's here now. So hopefully he brought his posse, and we'll fill up the chat room with his
I didn't advertise
thousands of subscribers.
Oh yeah, it's funny. I was talking. I talked to my wife about that a lot because she likes to listen. Yeah, right. but the subscriber thing is funny to me. You really have to be dedicated to content, and you can't just be a haul video kind of guy like I am. You have to have information. You have to be providing more information. And I think generally this chat, maybe save for tonight, is quite informative.
Well, this is a run filler chat. This show is a run filler. It's just we don't want to miss a week, so we're here.
You got that right.
Yeah.
So this is like the comics we're showing, right? With the leftovers.
Yeah, there you go. The run filling comics for the run filling chat tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna change the name of this one. As that you didn't care for the name of us anyway. But anyway, so I think I have a job. Most people I think on YouTube have jobs and are doing their thing. And I don't have the kind of job where I have the freedom to make my own schedule, or, I always tease my wife, like, if you watch those romantic comedies, I'm sure, DS, you watch all those romantic comedies, right? You love them.
I actually do like them, and the wife doesn't, so I have to wait till she's not here to watch them. How about that, huh?
That could be true, so I'm not going to say anything.
Absolutely, it's true.
Oh, wow. So then you'll know what I'm talking about. So you watch these romantic comedies, right? And you'll notice they're so formulaic, it's ridiculous. But you'll notice that like the women in these movies, they always have some sort of like free spirited job. They're all like, food bloggers, or they own a fledgling bookstore or a cupcake business, or they're a journalist, or they work in, whatever. Just there's always something that they do that everyone just basically pays them to show up and be themselves.
Yeah.
They're not really, there's no real skill involved, or like if the movie later, needs them to be like successful, then it's always them like walking down the street yelling at someone over the phone just to prove that they're powerful and they can yell at someone. Like, that's how successful I am. I just yelled at someone and hung up the phone. I'm like, okay, so so when you watch these movies, to me, those women or those people that are in those movies, those are kind of your 1,000+ subscriber YouTubers. They have some kind of job where they don't actually have to, like, either they don't have a job, which is fine. Like, I'm thankful for that. That's my aspiration, right? So either they have a job that doesn't require them to be 9 to 5 or longer, as some of us work long hours, So, or they kind of work from home. It's like the typical, romantic comedy. The girl is always working on a laptop with a coffee in her hand from bed. Like that's her job. She got up and went to work, and all she did was get coffee and go back to bed and work on her laptop,
Well, I'll tell you, in the comic community, I think it's maybe opposite, because Area 51 is here and he works from home and he's been doing it for the last 20 years. Comics with Bueller says he does not work, but he does drink coffee and make comic videos. So there you go. And then those two put out a lot of content, and they have great channels. So
that's what I'm saying. And I think it's awesome because they can dedicate more time, more energy, and have a growing passion to do that. When I get off work, I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like making a video. That'd be more work, Well,
I'm in charge at my job, and I make the schedule, including my schedule. So what I do is I schedule all of my 40 hours to occur within like 3 days. So for 3 days of every week, I do nothing but work and come home and go to sleep, and then get up after a few hours and go back to work. Wow. And then I usually have to, pick up a few hours here and there, 6 to 8 hours during the week, scattered about or whatever. But then for the other half of the week, I don't have to work, but I've got other stuff that I'm doing. So for half of the week, I'm pretty wiped out and not available for anything. And then the other half of the week, I try to dedicate Monday to comic books and the community and YouTube. And so that's why I'm so behind on videos. I watch a lot of videos. I don't have time to comment on all of them. I'm just trying to get some watching in. And it's Monday. I have one day to devote to it. So when I see Bueller, and by the way, anybody who's in the chat, there's 9 people here now, so we've gone up 50%. So Bueller had a chat with Comic Tom 101, and they both have pretty huge YouTube channels at this point. They're both in the several thousand subscribers, and they have really good content. And Bueller was on Comic Tom's channel, and they had like an hour-long sort of hangout chat where they talked about all kinds of stuff, and it was really great. So if anybody hasn't checked that out, I would say definitely check it out. I listened to it last night while I was packing up comics to ship that I sold. And those two have such successful channels and put out so many videos and such good content. I wonder, I know Comic Tom, from what he says, is a comic business type guy. Bueller says he has no job, but it seems like YouTube may be his job, and he's definitely got a possible career track, Bueller, in videos or media or something. So I'm glad there's people out there that have the time and the charisma too to do this on camera, because nobody wants to hear me talk for an hour. I guarantee that.
Well, that's not true. We do it every Monday night.
Well, yeah, I think I'm not talking for the whole hour though. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I think part of it too is, Comic Geek McD was talking about in the chat how he is also a student and he works at an LCS. So I think that probably is pretty rough too. That's like working 2 jobs. I remember a lot of that student stuff, but I will say this, Comic Geek McD, when you're a student, you're always looking for a distraction. So I could easily say that, you know, when I was a student way back in the day, we were chiseling on tablets and handing them in. I think I think that I would have loved to have a YouTube channel then, because I would have just been like, yeah, I really should be studying for this, but you know, I've got to put out this haul video. Let me get that done real quick. You know. So a little bit of slacking off time, but I know it's hard to juggle all the YouTube and everything else. Also too, family, you know, when you got, you know, a lot of stuff going on, maybe you got kids or a wife or whatever you got going on. It's tough to get all that done too.
Yeah, I'm very
keep
impressed.
everyone happy with it.
I'm very impressed with everybody who has, I guess, sort of the bravery at first to get on YouTube and make your first video and to put yourself out there, even if it's just your voice, like we do, to put out your opinions on books, to show your collection, to talk with nobody in the room, essentially, for the most part at first. And you have a lot of respect for people that do that. And among comic collectors, a very minuscule percentage that are making YouTube videos. So everybody who does that I'm impressed by. And then there's some that just take to it and have such a natural ability, and it's just so fun to listen and watch their videos. And those are the ones that generate, you know, big channels with a lot of subscribers, because they're just engaging to listen to. They've just got great insight and great opinions and tastes, and they're funny, and it's just, yeah. So I like that there's people out there with huge channels, and then I like some of the smaller channels, which I consider myself to be one. Ever since I started focusing on Golden Age, my views have gone in the toilet. I don't think I've even broken 100 views on a video. You know, I'll have to send some books into CGC just so I can put CGC unboxing in the title of video, just to bump up my views over 100 again. But, you know, it doesn't really bother me. I know that the people are watching like it, and that's what I like too. So
I've been to your eBay page, and I can say for sure that you know how to write on there, you know, YouTube, Golden Age haul, not CGC, not CBCS, not 9.8.
I do that all the time on eBay. Not CGC 9.8. I write that for all my CBCS 9.6s. I write not CGC 9.8.
Just to clarify, even though the only reason why you found this was because you searched for CGC 9.8, I just want you to know this is not a CGC 9.8.
Well, and I'll tell you, if you're selling a Swamp Thing issue and you want a ton of views on eBay, put not House of Secrets 92.
I've seen it.
Works. It's great.
I've seen it. And when I was hunting for Werewolf by Night 32, first appearance of Moon Knight, I can't tell you how many runs of Moon Knight there were that in the title it would say Werewolf by Night, or not Werewolf by Night 32. Yep. Like it would say, you know, Moon Knight #1, not Werewolf by Night 32. You know.
Well, I'll tell you, and I've emailed eBay several times, and I've never heard back. I'm sure nobody's even read it. It just gets filtered out as spam or whatever. But sort of like as a customer suggestion, I initially started selling comics on Etsy years back, and wasn't real successful. Most of the people on Etsy are for arts and crafts and jewelry and stuff like that. It's a thriving business for that. It's kind of tough to sell comic books on there, and there's no auction setting. But what Etsy does have, which is fantastic, is tags. You can make your title, and everything in your title is searchable, but then they have a box you can type in like up to 14 tags, and you can type in, you know, Superman, Action Comics, Golden Age, you know, Batman, Swamp Thing, House of Secrets, CGC, CBCS, PGX. You can just type in all these tags, and if anybody searches for any one of those tags in their search, yours will come up in the search results, and it will be based on how relevant your item is to what their other search terms are. But then I get on eBay, where it's the biggest comic marketplace ever invented by man, and they give you a very limited space to write a title for it, and that's it. If you are selling 10 books, you can't list the titles of all 10 to be searchable. So it's like they don't have an area to place tags. They should have a separate section when you're selling something of you can add tags that'll be searchable. And I've tried to suggest this to them, and I don't get any responses. But you know, I don't see how you can have a site that big selling so many different types of items and not have an area for people to enter searchable tags. Blows my mind.
It would
That's
seem
my biggest complaint
natural
as a seller. My biggest complaint as a seller on eBay.
So I've been buying a lot of stuff on Facebook lately. And if you want to talk, they say eBay's the Wild West. And, Roger likes to say that he's been burned so many times on eBay. You want to get your butt caught on fire, start buying from Facebook. That thing, that truly is wild. People putting up crazy stuff, taking the posts down. So I had an incident, and I do call it an incident, about 2 weeks ago. I was fighting mad. I was so mad I was going down the road having road rage over it. It was bad. So what happened, I'll try and make it short so that we don't go back down to 4.5 viewers.
No, we're up to 11 now. We're good.
Oh, we're in good company. 5.5 then. We don't want to hit the 0.5 mark. Somebody's going to have a stomach pain. So what happened was, real quick, is I was buying a lot on eBay and I was on Facebook, and I was going through, and it's a reply auction, right? So they have basically two different kinds. Well, there's three different kinds of reply auctions, or three different kinds of ways that people sell on eBay. Facebook. Dang it. All right. One is that it's a buy it now, first come, first serve reply sale. So buy it now or best offer. So they'll put up a book and they'll say $10. And if somebody says, yeah, I'll take it for 10, it's sold. If somebody says, hey, would you do 5? Then the conversation goes until the person says, okay, sold, right?
Okay.
And then they'll just post books furiously, and they might post 100 books, and everyone's like watching the post, waiting. They're usually pre-advertised for a few hours at least, and everyone's watching and waiting. And as soon as all the books are claimed, it's over. And usually they'll say, 48 hours, buy it now sale, or until all books are sold, right? And whatever is unsold, they just, save for the next one. Then and that's okay, but you kind of, again, can't really be working. Like if I'm working when one of these things starts, because they usually start in the afternoon or like noon or 1, then I'm too late and I miss out, because you got to literally be watching and be the first one to type it in. Excuse me. Then they have a second kind, which is a reply auction, but it's a hard close. So what that means is that they'll say this auction starts now and it will end at, they usually don't say 5 o'clock today, but for the sake of argument, they'll say it ends at 5 o'clock today or 5 o'clock tomorrow. So any bid, so they'll have a starting bid, $1 for this book. And again, they'll post like 100, 300 books sometimes. And the starting bid is there. And then everyone can basically, just like it's eBay, kind of put it in auction. So a bid. So the main difference between that and eBay is that as people are putting in bids, there's no incremental bid raising. It's not like I put in $10 as a max bid. There's no such thing as a max bid. You just put in what you're willing to pay. And if someone's willing to pay more, then they put higher, right? And I guess if you're watching it real close, then maybe you can catch it. But then you got snipers at the end, right? Who are just going to bid $1 higher on all the books they want so that they didn't waste money. So you've got that. So that's a hard close, meaning at 5 o'clock, any bids received at 5:01 will not be counted. They just get deleted, right? And then the seller awards the winners, and they send an invoice, and everything's done through PayPal. But then the third way, which I have found out is the worst way and the laziest way, is that someone will do a soft close. And what a soft close means is that the same as the auction, same as the second one, except it will end sometime around 5 o'clock today or tomorrow, right? And then they don't actually end the auction until they put sold on it. And they don't feverishly go through and mark sold, 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 sold. No, they're like, okay, this guy's got this, and they're writing. So in other words, the last book posted may not have the sale closed for like 10 minutes, So someone after 5 o'clock could very easily put in a bid. You get all that?
Okay, yeah, so I'm not on Facebook at all, so this is all new to me, but that sounds similar to a system that Comic Connect and Comic Link run on their exchanges, which is sort of like the buy it now. And I use those two auction sites a lot. But they have stuff on auction every month, and it's just like eBay auctions. It's what it sounds like. But then they have their exchange, which is like the buy it now stuff, and stuff will be listed for a price, and you can just buy it for that price, or you can submit a bid. and but they don't even have a soft close on those items. If something is asking price of $1,000, you can bid 300, and you might get your bid declined. It's sort of like an offer, but it will still show up as the highest bid is 200. But you don't know if it's active or not unless you made it and it is specifically declined. But it'll sit out there, and incrementally, depending on how hot the book is or how much people want it, over the course of weeks or months, you will see the highest bid or the highest offer going up. And some stuff, somebody wants $1,200 for a book that really is only worth $750. You'll see highest bid $750, asking price $1,200, and it'll sit there for a year or 2 years. And I tried to buy something on there, and I just bought it as a buy it now. And I think it was on Comic Connect or I can't remember if it was Comic Connect or Comic Link, but I just bought it now for the price they were asking for.
Right.
And they contacted me, and I never heard back. And I contacted them like, well, what's up? I bought this book. I haven't heard anything. And like, all right, let me check for you. And they said, okay, yeah, that seller hasn't been active for 8 years. And I'm like, what? I guess that means the book's not available or what? And they're like, yeah, we'll have that listing taken down. So they canceled my order, and it was never taken down. And then I go to look at it again a couple weeks later, and it's got a bid on it. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? So I bid $1 less than the asking price just to make sure that just in case there's some chance it's still there, I want to have the highest bid. And within 2 hours, my bid was accepted, and the seller accepted it, and it was sold, and it shipped. So very strange. Yeah. So that book apparently was listed on there for years. And now I own it, but it was weird. Yeah. So that's, ultra soft type of close on that system.
It's like no close, 8 years.
Right.
So what ticked me off about this particular instance was, and it's the first time I had really done a soft close, is that I had the main book I was after, I had the high bid on at the close, at the 5 o'clock or whatever close it was. And then he didn't close the auction. Like, he closed other auctions that were past this one. And this book was like a $200 book. And I had the high bid at like $10. And I was like, wow, okay, I just stole that book. Awesome. And then all of a sudden, someone else bids 45 minutes later after the close. And they bid $11. And then within 2 minutes of that bid, he marks sold on it. Like, what the hell?
Yeah,
that's dirty. And someone had alerted him in the bidding, which, I've done it before, but I stopped doing it once it happened to me. But someone had alerted the seller of the value of that book. They're like, whoa, this is a big book. Somebody ought to pick this up. I was like, man, shut up, right? And then sure enough, that was the only book that got held out there, unbid on, or unclosed rather, for 45 minutes. And then he goes and closes it real quick at the end, right after someone else bids. So I'm like, man, he probably called his buddy. I said, hey, do me a favor, bid on this book. I'll sell it to you. I'll give you $20 and I'll just keep the book, right? Just I'll pay you to bid on this.
Yeah,
just
I
so
don't
he
like
didn't
that
have to
at
get
all.
rid of that book. And he's probably going to turn around and sell it on eBay.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I recently tried to buy a Eternals #1. It was raw, but it was sharp. It was a 9.6, 9.8 candidate, and it was on Metropolis or Comic Connect. It's the same company, but they run two different sites. But it was that company that listed it, and it was for like $35 or something, maybe $45 for like a near mint Eternals #1, which I was going to buy and get graded and flip probably. It's worth way more than that. I could tell it was mint condition book. So I just bought it, got my invoice, paid it, got the confirmation email, and then later on I got an email from them later that night. They canceled the order and said, oh, the seller, this was mislisted. The seller no longer has this book, which I know is BS because he put it on there and it sold so quick to me. And then somebody told him, or he found out that that book's probably worth several hundred, and decided not to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it happens. I tried to buy. There's another guy that has his own website, and he listed X-Men 12, first appearance of the Juggernaut, and it was a CGC like 7.5, and he listed it for like $200. So I bought it. He immediately refunded my money and canceled it, and changed the list, took the listing down, and relisted it at like $1,200. So I think he just forgot the one on the front of the price. So it happens. I mean, look, when I'm a seller, I'm meticulous about making sure I have the price right, the parameters set. I mean, it's my responsibility. If I put something out there and somebody buys it, if it's online, that's the same as going to a store and buying something for the price and walking out to your car and having them come run out in the parking lot and be like, hey, wait, no, that's worth more. Like, yeah, all right, too bad. I already bought it. I gave you the money, you gave me the item. So online, it gives the opportunity for people to sort of back out of a finalized purchase, which I don't really like, but I sort of get it. But you know, I would hold people to it because I would be held to it, and that's why I am meticulous about setting prices and parameters on when I sell items. I check my listings multiple times to make sure everything's right before I put it out there. But it happens all the time. I mean, it's happened to me those times I've just listed plus more. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I think there are some sellers that do treat it like a small business and actually care. Sellers who care, and then there's sellers who don't. And I could see, you know, when I was sweating over selling that. Remember that Monopoly I had sell this week?
Yeah.
Or last week,
Right.
And I was waiting on it to sell, and I was like, "Oh, is it going to sell?" And when it finally sold, I was like, "Man, I got to get this thing shipped tomorrow," because I hate it when you spend, you know, $75 or more for something and they sit on it for a week or 2 weeks. I've had someone sit on my books forever, and I'm like, dude, get it out there. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life that you can't find time to go to the post office? I had one guy I was buying from, actually, well, I'll say it real quick. I doubt he's going to watch this, but I had one guy that I bought from, and he was like, yeah, because of my work schedule, I only ship once a week. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then it was like 2 weeks, and it still didn't ship. I was like, so did you work like 2 weeks straight? Like, in your course of your work, did you never drive by a post office at any hour of the day? Like, what exactly is that? You know, because you're not telling me I have 2 weeks to pay. And that's the part that gets me. You know, they want their money immediately. And then I think once you give them the money, they've already spent that money by the time they go to the post office to mail your stuff. And so now it feels like they're paying to mail it. You know, like they're out money now. Like, oh, man, I got to go do this thing on Saturday, and it's going to cost me, you know, $15. They're like, yeah, but I paid you like $75 a week ago. So just go mail it. You know, you already had the money. You spent the money, and now it feels like work. You know, that drives me crazy.
Well, here's what I do. I sell a lot of stuff on eBay, and as a seller, I've sort of changed my requirements and the system over time. And what I do now in every description of every item, for auction items, I require payment within 24 hours. I know eBay gives 48. I want the money in 24 because if 24 hours goes by and somebody hasn't paid for an item they won the auction, those end up being a lot of times the delinquent bidders that don't pay ever. And they're like, give me another day, give me another day. I don't do that. 24 hours, or what I do is I just cancel the order and then I relist the item. I don't mess around. I don't go through eBay most of the time to file a claim for unpaid and then wait for them to deal with it. I just cancel the order and I relist the item, and I put in my description that that's what I'm going to do. You know, when I buy an item, and what I say in my description is that, look, I expect prompt payment within 24 hours or I'm canceling the order. But in return, I will always ship next business day. And I mark it shipped when it's actually shipped. It's not one of these print the label and mark it as shipped and then don't actually ship it for 5 days. You know, where you put the tracking number on and it says label created in system, still waiting for the package acceptance or whatever. I don't do that. I take it to the post office the next morning, physically go in there, give them the box, they scan it, they give me the receipt, I type the tracking number in when I say it's shipped. So when I say something shipped, it's shipped, and it's the next business day. But in return, I want to be paid when somebody wins an auction immediately. But another good thing you can do that I've started doing is offering a second chance offer. I had an item that I sold, what was it, ASM 238. first Hobgoblin.
Mm-hmm.
9.8 CGC 9.8 white pages. I sold it on eBay in auction. It sold for just over $1,000. 24 hours went by. I sent a payment reminder. Dude never responded to the payment reminder. I sent him another message. He never responded, never paid. It was like 30-something hours. I canceled. Well, I didn't cancel the order. I sent a second chance offer to the next highest bidder, which was like $986 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, the winner of this auction didn't pay. I'm sending you a second chance offer. He still may pay. I haven't canceled that order. So his purchase is out there to be made, but you have a chance to undercut him if you want to buy it. And that person bought right away. So that closed out
the order?
Well, it automatically closes out the winning bidder's quote purchase. So he's no longer able to buy the item. It automatically cancels that. Sort of like if you make an offer on an item and your offer's out there pending and somebody just buys it outright, it automatically declines. It's like an auto decline. So his purchase was auto canceled. I don't mess around as a seller anymore. There's too many people that don't pay and then they want time to pay and then something comes. Look, I'm selling items. If you want to buy it, you pay for it. If you pay for it, I ship it immediately. So I don't mess around on eBay anymore. And I've never had any negative feedback. I've got 100% positive feedback, but I don't mess around with delinquent buyers. So, I mean, that's what I do. If anybody's selling on eBay and running into that problem, I would recommend just don't even give them a chance. Just 24 hours, cancel the order. That's what I do.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to run it. I just tell them that it'll be shipped quickly. You know, I try not to make any guarantees. I mean, things could happen, but I do try and get it out there as fast as I can. I don't sell a lot on eBay anyway. So, you know, but even the people who are selling a lot on eBay, I would think it's pretty easy that if you're making that much money on it, you might as well just go to the post office, make that part of your life now. You go to the post office every day, they're open.
Yeah.
You know?
And I bought items on eBay for, $1,000 book. And, 5-6 days go by and it's not shipped. I'm like, look, I just gave you $1,000. I mean, you can't find time to go ship it. You know what I mean? But most people, if you're buying a higher end book, they ship it quick with a signature confirmation and it's good tracking, good communication. But then you get people that sell a big book or something and you don't hear from them. It doesn't get shipped. And I'm just thinking, what, it's messed up. And it sort of gives eBay a sort of a dark cloud because a lot of people have a bad experience on eBay and it's because of stuff like that.
I can't tell you how many times I've had like an eBay seller just completely ignore every plea that I've had to not send it through media mail or something like that. It just drives me crazy. I'm like, hey, do me a favor. I usually request an invoice. I say, send me a new invoice that includes priority shipping and I'll pay it. It's not like I'm trying to get them to do it for free. And they'll argue with me. Oh, I've never had a problem with media mail. I'm like, what do you care if I'm willing to pay it? Like, what do you care? Just mail it the way I want it mailed. If I'm willing to pay for that, there should be no problem. The damn boxes are free. You can go pick up a free box and mail it.
Well, then there's buyers that are the opposite of you, though, where I've had more than one person contact me. I charge $10 shipping. I ship it priority mail. I ship it in a box. I charge $10 for a raw book. Obviously the book's worth more than $10. These are books that are worth, a few hundred probably at a minimum or whatever. People say, why are you charging so much? I could ship that for $3.50. I'm like, well, because I ship priority. I ship it in a box. I have custom boxes I buy. I have cardboard. I have my time. I have bubble wrap. I have packing materials. I ship priority and I ship it in a box. Well, you could just ship it in a flat rate envelope for $6. Yeah, I mean, do you want me to ship a comic in a flat rate box that you just paid, $400 for? I could do it, but I mean, that's why I charge $10 because I figure somebody buying that book wants me to put the time, effort, and attention into packing it securely and doesn't mind paying the $10. You're the ideal buyer, bub. But there's people out there that complain that they want me to charge them $6.50 or $6.65 instead of $10. For $3, you want to take that risk with this book?
My favorite thing to see is $15. When I see someone requesting $15 to ship a book, I know they're sending it flat rate, medium box with all the protection that a single book, like way more than protection that a single book would need. And I know it's going to come to me in 3 days. And that's my favorite thing. I like to pay for speed and shipping. I don't generally do like overnight or anything crazy like that, but I want a book. Once I buy it, I want to hold it within 3 or 4 days. And what really kills me are the people who advertise expedited shipping, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, $12 expedited shipping," and then they don't actually ship it for like 4 days.
Yeah, and then it's like, what did I pay for?
And then they ship it expedite. Like I only care from the point that I bought it to the point that I received it. That's shipping time to me. A little bit of processing, I'll give you a day, and that's it. The rest is all pure shipping time. So if you wait a week to ship it, you didn't expedite shipping.
Exactly. All right, so Pope Cerebus the First is in the chat. I already said hi to him as typing, but he says, do it the way the buyer wants it. I agree with that, but let me throw this in. As a fairly experienced eBay seller, there are things that sometimes as a seller you have to do to protect yourself, even if it's not what the way the buyer wants it. For instance, if I sell a book that's more than $500, I use signature confirmation. And I've had people that say, I don't need signature confirmation. I'll be home. I'll get it. I don't want to, in case I step out and miss it, they'll put a little thing on my door and I'll have to go pick it up. Don't do that. Well, I do it anyway, even though that's not what the buyer specifically says, don't do it. I still do it on a bigger book because I don't want one of these buyers to say, I never got the item. And I can say it was shipped with signature confirmation. It was signed for by residents. So it protects me from them making a bogus claim. I shipped a book recently, CGC slab. I pack everything meticulously, and it's like bomb-proof packaging. You could drop it off the Empire State Building, and it would survive. No joke. And I've tested it. I've thrown them up in the air with a slab that was not worth anything just to see what would happen. Nothing. Yeah. Somebody bought a $1,000 slab off me. They contacted me and said, hey, I just got this book and it's cracked. So they sent me pictures and there was a crack on it. I know the book wasn't cracked. When I sold it, I checked my photos just in case, and it was pristine. The crack looked pretty bad. There was like a chunk missing off the corner of the slab. That didn't happen in shipping. This was 6 days or 5 or 6 days after they had received it when I checked the tracking. And I was like, well, how come you are just now telling me this? Looks like you got it 5 days ago. They were working all week. They just now had time to open their packages. It looked like they dropped it on the floor, on a hard floor, and it cracked the slab. And they want some type of refund, or what will I do? Can we work it out? What do you do then? It looks like maybe they opened it and then dropped it on the floor, and now they're coming back at me on it. So, I worked something out with them, but I always do what I can to protect myself. I will get a signature on a big book. I will ship things in boxes, even if somebody wants it in a priority mailer, because I don't want them to say it got bent. I ship in boxes that I know are not going to get bent. So, sometimes when you're on eBay long enough, you'll get some complaints. People will try to shake you down sometimes for some extra money or some refunds. So, yeah, it's tough. It's sort of like a minefield sometimes selling on eBay. You got to negotiate all these obstacles to get through. But if you do it right, you can have, good feedback and a good experience and make some money.
Yeah, I have trouble with the signature part too sometimes, because like I work in another town from where I live, and I have security and all that kind of stuff at home, cameras and everything, because I like to watch, my dog chase the mailman. But and the meter reader and all that stuff. That's just quality entertainment while I'm at work. But one of the things that gets me is sometimes they won't deliver a box because it needs to be signed for, or a package because it needs to be signed for. Well, shoot, man, if they come to deliver that on Monday, I'm literally nowhere near my local post office during operating hours of my local post office. I leave before they open, and I'm home after they close. So if a book is supposed to come to me Monday, I won't get it till the following Saturday, which is the first chance that I have to go to the post office and pick it up. So that sucks, because they'll say, oh, we attempted redelivery. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't there Monday. I'm not going to be there Tuesday. You keep coming at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm not there,
Yeah. Well,
So
that's
that
why I
can
stopped
happen
using
too.
FedEx. The FedEx and UPS will continue to attempt to redeliver it, but then they take it back to whatever's the closest headquarters or whatever. But the post office, when they deliver stuff, if you're not there to sign, they'll put a little thing there. They're not redelivering it. You weren't there. Tough luck. We will keep it at the post office. You can come pick it up. So I don't
Yeah.
mind that. Like CGC packages, I have sent back to me uh, through the postal service. I'm never here when they come, but I can see on the tracking attempted delivery. So I'll swing by the house or get it later when I get home. That little slip that's sticking on the door in the mailbox, and then the next morning I'll go drive to the mailbox or the post office, which is close to my house, and I'll say, "Hey, I missed this. Can I pick it up?" And they say, "Sure." So, yeah, I look. I prefer that things are shipped without a signature to me most of the time
Yeah.
because I'm either home or I work so close to home. I have the ability that when it's delivered, I can be there within a minute to pick it up, and it's a safe
Right.
neighborhood and all that. But I prefer not to have a signature. But some some sellers use a signature. I totally get it, so I don't complain about it. It's whatever. But you remember that FedEx problem I had, where even with the signature, FedEx had
Oh yeah.
gave it to my neighbor and let her sign it, and she was not even just outside. He just assumed that was the resident of my house, and it was ASM 129, $1,500 book. So
Yeah. That's no good. I ended up getting a PO box at my local post office because it was happening so often that they were just holding packages for me. And I said, look, I got a PO box at the local post office, which I have to pay for. I mean, it's not ridiculously expensive, but still, it's an expense. And I was like, so now when I get one of those slips, I call the post office the next morning. I say, please put it in my PO box. And then they put it in my PO box and I can pick it up the next day, after work. But I always cringe because I'm waiting for the day that they put that little key to the parcel locker in the wrong PO box. It will
right,
happen one day. It's
right,
only a matter of time. And someone's going to open that little locker and they're going to see a book and they're going to open it up, and heaven help me if it's got a receipt for $1,500 or something like that,
yep, yep,
and they're just going to turn around and say, I don't know what this is, especially a slab, because you can look at a slab. A slab looks like money. When
right.
you open that slab and it's shiny and pretty, you're like, this is worth something. I'm going to look this up. And then boom, there it is, sold.
Well, yeah, I've never, you do this long enough, there's a whole other set of problems that have arisen since the advent of the internet, which is essentially what we're talking about here. There was no buying anything online. There was no online, in 1990 at all. So you wanted a comic book, you had to go to a convention or a comic book store or something, or buy it out of a catalog, I guess. But with the internet, most things are bought online and shipped, and yeah, I think there's some growing pains with that, and it's not 100%. And when something is shipped across the country or across the globe or something, there's a lot of problems that can arise. So you do the best you can as a buyer and seller to get what you pay for or provide the service that somebody's paying you for. But nothing's 100%. I've been selling on eBay a long time. I'm very meticulous. I try to do everything perfectly, and I still run into problems as a buyer and as a seller. So nothing's perfect.
Yeah, it works out pretty good. I'm not complaining on a whole. I'm very happy that I'm a collector in the time that I am a collector in, because it certainly is very easy to find a bunch of books that I love and want to buy. And it's also easy to acquire them given the funds. So I can't complain.
Did you want to see some of these books I've got here?
I guess we're kind of low on time. I'm going to save it for next week.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, yeah, what is it? 8 after?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I'll hold them. I don't care. I've been holding them for years. These books aren't going anywhere. They're just not worth enough to list. And so I still have them. So
let's show them off next week. We'll put it as a topic. I think I know who we're going to have next week as a guest. We had a guest last week. They canceled. So I'm going to check on another person, I think, for next week. I think I know who I want. So we'll see if I get them or not.
all right, well, that sounds fair enough. I don't have a whole bunch of. They're not awesome books or anything anyway. So
all right, we'll shut it down and go play with our people.
I did pick up another LB Cole book, a pretty rare one. Pretty cool book. Not super huge grail material, but I should be getting that this week. So I'll show that off next week. in a video on my channel. And I also have these 2 issues of The Thing showing. Getting the final 4 back from CGC this week at some point, and I will do a video showing my full run of this pre-code horror title, The Thing. So that's what's coming up on my channel. And I'm also going to start doing something on I'm no grading expert, but I know more than some, less than others, but there's not enough stuff out there about grading, so I'm going to start a little video series about grading, and it's not going to be ETA Nick level, but it's going to be, you know, not beginner level either. It should be some informative stuff that even some seasoned people aren't aware of.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't know. It could be helpful to some people, I think, and it'll be fun. I'll learn from it too. So
that sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy your videos once a week. That's all I have time to enjoy them.
That's all I have time to make them, so it works out good.
All right, guys. I don't have a whole lot. I've got some more videos dropping this week, and I've really been busy picking up these little keys, so they're making me happy as I build the funds towards a House of Secret 92 and a Giant Size X-Men 1. Those are my 2 big books for 2019. So, and I picked up a bunch of books that were on my list for 2019 already. So that means that I should really be able to focus on those between now and then. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'll drop a few haul videos along the way. So,
and if you can find in your collection, you know, some books to sell, you raise some funds, you can get a really good looking House of Secrets 92. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's like $600 for even a low grade.
Well, I mean, the asking prices on 2.0s now are, you know, approaching 1,000, which is insane. But it seems like Amazing Fantasy 15, the Hulk 181s, like Hulk 1, Fantastic Four 1, a lot of these big keys are sort of bumping up against the ceiling, and they haven't really gone any further, but they're not dropping a ton, but they're down a little bit. So, you know, House of Secrets is, you know, the second priciest bronze key out there after Hulk 181, I think. At this point, it's clear second place after Hulk 181. And, you know, hopefully those will come down and correct a little. And then some people like you, me, and others can go out and pick up some books that we want a little cheaper than what they've been going. So,
yeah, I'm pretty patient when it comes to the big books. The smaller books I get impatient on, but like, for instance, I saw like a first appearance or first Silver Age appearance of Shazam this morning. And man, that book was going for 3 times what it's going for now a month ago when the trailer came out or whatever for the Shazam movie.
yeah.
And everybody was buying those up. And I swear every haul video I saw had one of those. Everybody was picking it up as their big book to get. And now nobody's buying it. Like, you can get them all day on eBay. You can get 3 for the price you paid, you know, a month ago for them.
Well, here's the thing about that book. That book doesn't have very much what I call intrinsic value. You know, intrinsic value would be more something like gold or wheat or a car. I mean, it's easily identifiable, useful value. But for a comic book, the intrinsic value of that, it's not a good read. It's not a great cover. It's not a great artist. It's not a great character. There's nothing intrinsically great about that book. It's all right. But when there was movie spec, the price shot up. Well, that's an artificial price increase because that's pure spec price. The book itself, for what it is, there's not much about it that has a lot of value. It's a cool book, yeah, but it's not what it was going for, you know, a year ago or whatever. House of Secrets 92 is a complete opposite. That is not only a superhero first appearance, it's a top bronze key, it's a lower print run, it's a cool cover by a top artist, and it's the #1 horror book from the Bronze Age as well. So that runs a gamut of categories there to be a rock solid book. Movie spec is not going to push it any higher, and it's not going to drop it any lower. I mean, that's a rock solid intrinsic book. Sort of like Hulk 181, First Wolverine. That doesn't need to be bolstered up by a movie.
Yeah.
But then that's Shazam. I mean, that's a movie book. Thanos stuff is cool, but there's a lot of movie spec driving prices of that up. So cool books become super expensive on spec news, where intrinsically they don't have the value or the goods to keep that value without the spec. So when the spec drops off, so does the value.
Yeah, I think the variants that all come out are are also that way. You know, like everyone run to their LCS and, oh, I picked up 6 of these and I'm going to flip 3 or 4 of them on eBay and all that stuff. And then if you just wait like a couple of months, they're right back down to earth, you know?
Right.
And I think people want to have them to show, and they want to prove that they got it. And they want people that are eager to get them. And then there's a secondary group of people. These are your Batwang people right now, right? So these are the people that missed out on Batman Damned, right? And it's that feeling that I missed out on this. I missed out. I didn't get it when it was on the stand for the regular price. I totally missed out the day it was selling, and it got out of my price range and it went crazy. Now it's come back down into my price range. It's still ridiculously priced, if you ask me, but it's come back down to a price range that I can afford. So I'm going to buy it just to get rid of the feeling that I missed out on it.
Right. Well, there's a lot of these books that collectors want and have on their target list, like that Shazam one, because it's a cool book and they want it and it fits what they're collecting. And then all of a sudden there's movie spec, and all of these other non-Shazam fans flock to it and start driving the price up. And then the true fans and the collectors that wanted that book regardless are priced out of it. And they're like, I don't want to pay that for it. So then you've got to sit it and wait it out for the spec to die off and those people to buy and flip the books amongst themselves for a while, and then the price comes back down, and then you can pick up a book that's a nice solid book to add to your collection. But yeah, I mean, there's been books I've wanted like that, and I just was almost gonna get it, and then there's movie news or some other character speculation or something, and the price goes way up, and then then you have to wait for those people to go away, sort of for the crowd to disperse, so that you can sort of get back on track and get the book that you wanted before. Yeah, there you
go. This Werewolf by Night 32, that's the best example I have of what you're talking about right there. And it's caught in between the two, because what happened was I was trying to get this book. It wasn't as hot as it was maybe a year ago, but the prices are still soaring. This book, I swear, it's only been a month since I've had it, and they're even going higher now. But there hasn't been any movie news, no kind of speculation on a movie, just people want a movie, right? Or a TV show or something.
Right, yeah, you don't even have to have the news. You just have people want the news or think news would be coming or something.
So what happens when the news finally does come and Marvel gets the memo that people want this character? I won't be able to afford this book. And I'm not even buying it for Moon Knight. I was just trying to complete a Werewolf by Night run. If I tried to do this 5 years ago, it would have been cheap. But I waited too long to pick it up. And now, if I wait longer, I may not be able to afford it. So I went and got it.
Well, Roger, who's not with us tonight, is running into that problem with the Ghost Rider. There's just rumors that Marvel's going in that underworld sort of direction, which fits Ghost Rider's character, obviously, as the, Legion of Monsters type stuff. Yeah, and he needs a Marvel Spotlight 5, and the price is through the roof on that. And that's, I think, that's the only one he needs left to complete his Ghost Rider run is Marvel Spotlight 5, I believe. He can correct us next week or in the comments, but I think that's what he said. And the price is through the roof. And yeah, it's a big book, but it's not the prices that's selling for big right now. But I think it's the rumors that Marvel's going in that direction with the movies that's driving the Ghost Rider stuff up. I mean, that Legion of Monsters book that you picked up, that book is not cheap.
No.
I would pick that up. I want that book, but I mean, I don't want to pay, $250 or $300 for a near mint copy. That's insane. I would, I think it's $75 book in a near mint, but yeah, stuff like that. Anything with Ghost Rider is going through the roof.
Yeah.
Plus they had that Cosmic Ghost Rider, I think too, is in the current modern comics storylines is bumping it up too. So
that's true. There's a lot of renewed interest in him. And anytime any of these properties got bought, if there was a somewhat mediocre movie, we'll say, of these characters, and then when Disney bought Marvel and Fox and all that stuff, everyone's trying to change hands, then I don't necessarily agree with it, but I guess people feel like, well, there's a remake coming. There's a remake coming. Now that they own it, they can do it right. So here we go again.
I don't know. I think the Werewolf by Night book is got a lot of intrinsic value because it's sort of considered to have a lower print run. There's less of them out there, although I think there's plenty of them out there. But Moon Knight been a popular character. He kind of has a cult following.
Yeah.
Really cool character. It's a cool bronze title. The stories, and it's just, you know, anything with Moon Knight has always got a pretty solid following and very strong fan base. And then you add movie news to it, and that's why that book, goes up so high.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty big bronze key. I mean, congratulations on getting it at all, because that's a decent bronze key there. That's top 10.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this year. It's been a hell of a year, man. Books I thought would take years to collect. Once I decided to pick them up, they just all started falling in my lap. And even the ones I had to hunt for, in the end, I was happy with what I paid for them and glad that I got them now, as opposed to waiting. So it really has been something. It's been a wild year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I actually picked, the big bronze keys I picked up this year, I have already sold. So I didn't have them for long, but man, I made some nice profits on those books. I mean, I almost doubled my money on the Hulk 181. I was so excited when I got it. And then after I got it, very quickly, it fell off. It wasn't even one of my favorite books anymore. And it was like I accomplished it and the excitement was gone. And it was like, it was sort of the challenge of acquiring a high grade copy of that. And once I got it, it was like mission accomplished. Sell it and move on is what I did. So
just like a guy, that's what didn't even call your Hulk 181 in the morning. It was all about the accomplishment of the hunt.
That's right.
You're over it.
It was the chase. It was just the chase. And once I got it, it wasn't exciting anymore. And I lost interest.
Shame on you.
We've all heard that story before, but yeah, I had that book for what I bought it in like March or something.
Yeah.
And I paid a pretty penny for it. It was at 8.5. And I sold it at Baltimore Comic Con to a dealer and used the money to buy a Golden Age Grail. So I sold it for almost double what I paid for it in March. So what was that, like 6 months? I had it for 6 or 7 months and almost doubled my money on it. So I'm not complaining. It was really fun trying to get one. It was super challenging and exciting to get a nice copy of it because of the cost. And it was awesome to get it. And then, it was awesome to sell it so quickly to make a huge profit to turn it into a Golden Age book that you don't ever even see. So yeah,
that is awesome. I know that I'll show this for you, DS. I know that you want to see it. I don't think you'll miss your copy looking at this copy, because your copy is probably a whole lot better, or it was.
Well, I feel like I have a connection to this copy too, because this copy in a way has taken sort of come full circle, because it came in a slab. I was the only viewer late night live chat where you cracked it out of the slab.
Yeah.
And now it is back in the slab. So it's come full circle, just like my Hulk 181.
Yeah. Back where it belongs, in a 2.5 case. But, it had not been pressed. I think if I pressed it, I could easily resubmit it again and get a nice 2.5.
Well, is the cover and the centerfold attached?
Yeah, centerfold's attached.
Yeah, you might be able to get 3 on it. Who knows? It's almost worth gambling on a book of that magnitude for a half a point, because a half a point on such a big book is a lot of money. But if you're not selling it, it doesn't really matter. That's cost money to press it. But
yeah, I'm thinking about putting it in sending it to CGC to get a grade. So it might come back down as a 1.5 after that.
Well, that was what, CBCS, right?
Yeah, CBCS.
Yeah, I mean, CBCS and CGC, I think, are both pretty accurate. I think CGC is a little harsher. I've sent some CBCS stuff into them, and it's come back lower every time, but not by much, like a half a point. So
I think it would look awesome in the new case.
Definitely.
That new CGC case. I just picked up this Tomb Raider 33, and I just absolutely love that book.
Does that one not have Newton rings on it? I saw it in your video on the wall, and now I'm seeing it now. Does it not have a Newton ring on it?
It has a little bit, but it's very little. You have to really be looking. There's a little like rainbow jizz here on her shoulder and a little bit on her boob. But they're not really full-size rings. They're just a little bit of slick. It's not too bad. It's definitely like, this doesn't bother me. However, on the back, which I've got this holder on it, but you can't really see it very well because of the holder. But on the back, there's a lot of it. And if I was telling my wife, if the back If the front had as much on it as the back, I would have been real mad. Like I would have been contacting the seller and saying, dude, you have to disclose that. But, you know, no offense to you or anyone else, but there's so many CGC, what I call a CGC apologist.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
And they are really happy with their book, and they're really happy with their collection. And anything that CGC has done wrong, it's okay. That Newton ring doesn't bother me. That old slick doesn't bother me. And let me tell you, anything that takes away from the reason that you got this done is enough to bother me. So you get it done to preserve the book. Okay, so if the case is cracked or has any kind of damage to it and you feel like it's no longer properly preserved, then okay, then that's a problem. If it comes back at a grade that you think is just really off or wrong, that's a problem. Or one like a PGX grade you can't trust, right? Or if it comes, then you slab it also for presentability, right? You want to keep it looking beautiful and you want to be able to display it and have it look awesome. And the Newton rings destroy that if they're at a very bad level, you know, and I've seen some that were horrible. So I was very happy with this one coming back the way it did. But if you get those Newton rings all over the book and it's just covered and it looks like it's sick or something, then I'm not paying for that. I mean, they look terrible. But, you know, like I said, a CGC apologist would be like, oh, no, that's just part of it, and it still looks good, and I don't mind that at all.
You can certainly consider me a CGC apologist because I think I come across that way, and in the grand scheme of things, I am much easier on them than a lot of people, so that's perfectly fine. The Newton rings, look, they're not ideal to me. They bother me, but they don't bother me so much that I'm not going to get stuff slabbed. But, you know, I wish they weren't there, but honestly, I don't see them on any Golden Age books that I get slabbed. It's ironic because, you know, I got this thing one back here. I didn't slab the other one, but this one I sent in. This doesn't have any Newton rings at all. I mean, it's just this is the way a slab should be, and it's perfect on the front and the back, and it doesn't have any Newton rings at all. It just looks exactly perfect the way you would want a slab. So it seems to be a modern and bronze book issue, mostly some silver, but then I hardly ever see it on gold, even a little bit. So it's weird, but you know, I don't hang my books on the wall. I mean, I don't know if I get I'm more concerned with the grade and the preservation of the book, and just ensuring that there's no resto and getting it preserved in the case. And I want to have a grade on it for value. And you know, the Newton rings are the least of my concerns, but they are a concern, but they're very low on my list. So, you know, I got enough stuff to worry about with comics. I'm not putting Newton rings high on the list.
One of the things that bothers me, though, is like CBCS has no Newton rings. PGX has no Newton rings. So that means that there's something wrong. And in my opinion, it's obviously wrong with the process. It's not that it's the technology is what it is and this is the best we're ever going to get. No, this is going to be fixed. CGC will find a way to fix the Newton ring problem. Well, whatever it is, they have spent so much money buying in bulk their supplies, and they're just going to have to let this Newton ring stuff run its course. And then they'll come out with a new case, and the next new case will be all fixed, and you won't have this problem. So my feeling is I should hold back on submitting books until they get that fixed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Worked out.
And I'll tell you what I think.
Just like you should kind of hold back on submitting to PGX until they fix their reputation, or hold back on submitting to CBCS until they get better cases that don't look like shrink wrap.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'll tell you what I think is going on with the Newton rings, and this is totally unconfirmed, but I think CGC ordered the materials from their supplier. They found that there was Newton rings. Everybody brought it to their attention. Customers were complaining. They became well aware of it very quickly. They had all these tons of plastic that they ordered from their supplier. They probably changed suppliers or changed the product or whatever they were getting to eliminate that, but they still had all this slab material to use that was causing Newton rings. So instead of throwing it out, they just decided to continue to use it until it was gone and see if they could figure out how to lessen the Newton rings. But they didn't want to throw out all their old material, and they said they're just using that until it's gone. And then I think the new suppliers of the new product they're getting won't have it. That's what I suspect. You know, I'm just trying to think if I was running CGC, how would this problem persist? That's the only reasonable way I can think that this problem would still be persisting with their product, is that if they just had so much material ordered, but they went ahead and changed suppliers, but they just have to use up this material till it's gone. I think that's what they're doing.
I agree. And I think part of the thing that will run its course is that, like, you know, you have to remember they're selling to collectors, right? And collectors are a very odd bunch of people, if you hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
And that's that people collect all kinds of things, and the more scarce or rare they are, the chances are there's more people willing to spend more money to collect them. How much you want to bet someday people are going to be like, hey, I have one of the old CGC cases. Oh, I have the CGC cases that came out when they had Newton rings. Well, I have a complete collection of Newton ring cases, you know. You know, I mean, people are just going to make at some point, I really believe at some point slabs will be graded, right? Well, this is a 2.5 in an old CBCS case, and the comic is a 2.5 and the slab is a 5.0. You know, because it's going to have scratches, dings, and dents, and, you know, Newton rings on it and all of the crap.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, people are already talking about the Gen 1 CGC holders. Like, hey, this isn't a first generation holder from CGC, so it's a little cooler because supposedly the grading was stricter, and it's got a coolness factor because this is the very first type of holder they ever had. Also, there's a couple. The CGC used to have like a, what was it, like a 9.7 or a 9.5 or something as a grade that most people don't even know about it. But there were some books that were graded with some of these off grades that aren't used anymore. And if you have like a first generation holder of a 9.5, that's a super cool item. You know what I mean? So you don't see them very often. I've seen a couple. I can't remember if it's a 9.7 or a 9.5. Some off grade that's not even used anymore. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they should do what my comic shop does. At least they're the leading in this because they mention blemishes, cracks, whatever, you know, the quality of the holder. My comic shop mentions it as a relevant factor.
Yeah, I love how
and it really is to collectors. We care about the condition of the slabs. I care about the condition of the slabs. I just don't care so much about the Newton rings as I do other things. So I'd rather have a new CGC holder with Newton rings than a CBCS holder with no Newton rings. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just a better product overall. It's still not a perfect product, but it's better. And I like the new CGC holders over the old CGC holders. So, I mean,
the PGX cases look 10 times better than the CBCS cases, even the new CBCS cases. The PGX cases, to me, in cases, of course, in grading scale, they're no comparison. But in cases, it's CGC, then PGX, then CBCS, and in that order, you know, of better to least. So it just seems like if someone would fix something, it would seem like they would have it all. You know,
right?
Somebody just fix what's freaking broken. You know, CBCS. If you get a better case and fix your turnaround time, you guys are the new leaders. If CGC
you know what else would be cool?
Can get rid of their Newton rings, they're winning. You know,
if a new grading company came about, or if you and I started one, I think it'd be cool to have like customizable labels or customizable borders. You know, this is just a piece of paper that's printed off. It's a piece of blue paper printed off. They put a hologram sticker on the outside, but the label is just a piece of paper. You could customize that for somebody. You could do something on the back as a border if somebody wanted it that shows other key books in the title, in the title or in the run or of that character, or, you know, customize the label somehow. There's a lot more that could be done than just, you know, this standard. But really, grading's been around since like 2001, but it really hasn't taken off seriously. It's skyrocketed in the last, you know, I mean, it's exponential, but in the last 10 years. So you've got a new technology with not a lot of players on the field for something that's really been going strong for 7 to 10 years. You know, there's going to be more changes and more companies coming out. So, you know, it's interesting.
Too. And I think that there will be truly expedited, you know, services that get made. I think a lot of this can be done by computer now. Really a high-res scan with a simple computer program to detect ticks and color variations and things of that nature. I think it's only a matter of time. When I look at the grading process, and we've had this discussion before, and people talk about whether it's subjective or not, or whether there's an actual rubric to it. But the bottom line is the reason that there's any kind of question is because there's so much human involvement. And I think when at some point, some company will come along and say, we're now the gold standard in grading. And the main reason that we're going to be the gold standard in grading is because our grades are they're going to be more closely judged by each other. So this book is a 7 because it had, 7.8 ticks on it, and it can print out exactly what's wrong with the book. And it would be much more scientific to have a computer do it than to have a person do it. Now, if you want to say, what is the grade? Is this white to off-white pages? Well, it takes a snapshot of that. It judges the color. It runs through the computer scale. It tells you exactly what, off-white to white is, and what the range is and whether it falls in that. And really, there's nothing to grading a book other than the actual touching of the book and opening the pages to make sure it's complete. After that, when you're just talking about cover condition and page color, computers can do that probably better than people can already.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to, I like to have people doing things. I don't like when computers do things. I saw this commercial. I just said to Mrs. DS earlier today on TV, there's a new car that will, if you're not paying attention and there's an obstacle, it'll automatically brake for you. Yeah. I mean, what if you want to run somebody down? You can't do it in that car. You know what I mean? It's seriously, all right. But I mean, not if you just are like out on a killing rampage, but suppose you're surrounded by people. You took a wrong turn. You're going through a mob of people and it's the apocalypse or something. And you're trying to get through a crowd. You're not going to be able to with that car. It's not going to go anywhere if there's people standing in front of it. So I'm not in favor of computers. Maybe. I mean, I'm a big sci-fi fan. Sometimes I get confused about what's reality, but I'm telling you, I would rather have people do it. But the page quality thing you mentioned is not as easy as what you think. And that's what I'm thinking of doing on my first of a new series of grading videos. Page coloring is not as easy as just, is this page white or off-white? Does it match the shade? That's not how it's determined. So it would be hard for a computer to do it because even books even the same issue in the title, like this thing 1, you could have 4 issues of this thing 1 with different page color among the same issue of the same publisher. And this publisher's paper quality is different than an Avon or an EC book. That white doesn't mean white. White means the best quality of paper color for this issue at this time by this publisher, which may be far less white than an EC book that came out. So white on here is not the same shade as white on an EC book because EC had much better paper quality.
Well, you have to remember two things that I don't know about a zombie apocalypse. I'll bring it back down to maybe a more likely event is, in my area, there's a lot of deer that cross the road. And I drive a truck. So if it's me versus the deer, I'm going to win. Now that it may do some serious damage to my truck, but I'm going to plow through that deer because if I swerve and go off the road or into another line of traffic, it's far more dangerous than just hitting the deer. So I'm going to hit the deer. If he's in the way, he's getting hit,
Right, right.
And I would rather hit him than have the truck automatically brake and have someone rear end me or something crazy like that. So that'd be far more damage. I'm probably still going to hit the deer too. So yeah, I don't like, to me, if you're someone that wants computers to drive cars, it's because you already don't really know how to drive one. Yeah. And if that's the case, just stay home or ride the bus.
Well, here, I shuddered when I saw the comment the Gray Man made in the chat. Robot graders are needed. Then it goes haywire and turns your book into confetti. That just gave me chills down my spine. I don't want a computer anywhere near my books. I don't want machines or metal or anything next to my book. I will trust professional graders to handle the book.
Let me be clear. I'm not advocating machine and computer grading. What I'm saying is that we were discussing specifically at that moment that I brought that up, we were talking about the next grading company and the advent of a grading company and what are they going to do kind of to separate themselves. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because the big issue that PGX has is not their turnaround time and it's not their cases. It's that they're not professional enough in their grading, allegedly or whatever. So there's not enough professional graders on staff. I'm saying you get the best professional graders you can find, and you have them have input on how to design this program and how to have the machine run it, and you can lock that knowledge in to a machine and then have the machine just simply replicate the process. And if you could do that, then there's going to be plenty of people who will still not send their book to that company because it's being touched by a machine or even looked at by a machine. But it would at least have a way for a new grading company to distinguish themselves in the category and to eliminate some of that fear that the grading isn't professional enough. To say, you know what, we took it a step further. This is computerized grading. So this is even better because we consulted the graders and we've consulted some professionals, and this is what we've developed to keep the standard the standard.
Yeah,
and I just think that that's a way that they can distinguish themselves, and I feel like someone's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to happen. I mean, they're moved to computers to try to do everything for us at some point. Why not that too? It makes sense that they'll try it. But I'll tell you, you can say I'm a CGC apologist, but look, I don't have a problem with the professional graders at CGC. I don't think there's an issue with people grading these books. I trust them to handle my expensive books. I trust them to grade them consistently. I'm not one of these people that complains about every CGC grade or always says that, oh, this grader was having a bad day, when in fact it's 3 graders that look at every book. I don't have a problem with the grading the way it is at CGC. My problem's not with the grading. My problem comes with cases and quality control and that type of thing. But for CBCS and CGC, the grading is the least of the problems going on. I think the cases and the turnaround times, it's all the other stuff, excuse me, around the grading itself that's become the big sticking points with this industry.
Well, see, that's just it. That's what I'm saying. Each company has their own problem. CGC has the grading, I think, pretty well. Everyone agreed, down packed, right? So CGC has the grading on check. Their cases look pretty good, except for the Newton rings.
Right,
and their turnaround time is in the middle. I think, yeah, you can pay extra for faster, but really, I can't think of a reason why you can't get this book back to me in less than 30 days. I just can't think of a good one. To me, hire more people, expand. And don't tell me, well, there's only a finite amount of people who are capable of grading. That's baloney. They're not doing artwork. There should be an apprenticeship program, and you should be able to grow the knowledge.
Yeah, but it takes
spread the knowledge.
It takes time to get people through, to get people to want to join a career, to train for it, to gain experience. And it takes time for the manpower and the education experience to catch up to such a fast-growing industry, which is why a lot of fast-growing industries have trouble staffing at the demand that they need. I don't think it's BS.
CBCS can have that excuse. PGX can have that excuse. If you're the leader, if you're the industry leader, like CGC is, you don't have the excuse that, oh, we can't grow fast enough. You have to. I mean,
it's not like there's, millions of professional graders out there looking for work. Do you know what I mean?
Just make more professional graders.
That's what I'm saying.
There's
to make a professional grader, you need somebody who wants to do it as a job.
You can't have it both ways, DS Comics. You can't say
catch up.
No, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, because you're sitting there and you're saying, "Oh, there's only a finite amount of people who are professional graders," and then you turn around and say, "Well, no. Grading is not subjective. There's a rubric and they follow the rubric." Well, then why can't you just teach someone how to do that? It shouldn't take, I give you 1 year, and they've had plenty of them. It should take 1 year. You should be able to double your grading workforce. You can't tell me there's people out there that would not love to sit in a room and touch rare comics and grade them all day long. Sign me up. I'll move my whole family if they pay me enough.
Yeah, I think they have expanded so much so that they've moved or they've bought a new building and they've expanded into London. I mean, I think they are expanding. The demand is just skyrocketing exponentially, and they're trying to keep up with it. I don't think their turnaround times are that bad. I mean, people are sending in millions upon millions of modern books during con season, and they're cranking them out in 3 months and getting them back. I don't think that's that bad. I mean, Golden Age books don't take that long, and super expensive higher end books are super quick. I think their turnaround times are reasonable, and yeah, they're expanding. It's just I don't think a lot of people realize the number of books that are being sent to CGC that they are having to handle.
Yes.
These
But does
graders, no matter how
CGC
many
realize
graders
it?
they bring on, but it's more than just you get them a year and you train them. I mean, there's a lot of training and experience that goes into to be able to accurately grade books. It's not just following a formula. It's more than that. It's a profession, and you know they're
I'm not buying
expanding.
it.
And you're not buying.
I'm
Well, if
not
it's
buying it. There's two. Look, there are tons of professions that deal with apprenticeships and with taking time to learn a skill or an art or whatever, or a science or whatever you want to call what this grading is. There's tons of industries that do it at the same way at a higher level with more important things on the line. No offense to our own books, right?
yeah,
But if you're the industry leader, you have to grow to keep your customers happy. You have to. And I cannot believe that the grading would suffer, because if you're having 3 people grade every book, fine. Then as long as the last person to grade it is the best guy in the room, I
well,
got no problem,
they have a supervising grader that looks at the grades of the other 3 to make sure they're consistent before it's assigned the final grade. So there's like
Yeah.
4 people involved or
And
whatever.
that
But
guy needs to be either paid double to work twice as long.
I know, and
Or
then you complain about the cost of
study under
grading.
him.
You know what I mean? Then the prices are too high. You want dirt cheap, and you want. I mean, what do you think's a reasonable turnaround time for a modern book if you send it to CGC for grading only, no pressing or anything?
I'll answer that. But first, I want to address the other thing you said just before that, and that is what's the price? Do you wanted it cheap? I didn't say I wanted this to be the cheapest service. We already have the cheapest service. The cheapest service is PGX. The middle of the road, if you don't care if your book ever shows back up ever, is CBCS. What I'm talking about is the industry leader. And I think that as the industry leader, you have a responsibility to have the staff on hand to handle your accounts, no matter what business you're in. And if you're not doing that, then you don't deserve to be the industry leader, and you deserve to have someone overtake you.
Okay.
So that aside,
I hear you. I don't have a problem with their turn. I think they are doing it. I think they're keeping up. I think they're doing a good job. I'm a customer of CGC on a regular basis. I've sent them lots of books. I continue to do so. I'm happy. So they are.
I think 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks is a reasonable turnaround time. From the time that they receive it to shipping it back out, it shouldn't take more than 3 weeks. And if it does take more than 3 weeks, then it's because you've requested additional services. That's it.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that's just all right. It's not doable. I mean, if you think about the number of books they're receiving.
How could you say that? That's ridiculous.
Well, I
That's
mean,
like saying I'm making donuts and I got a line outside of people who want donuts and I can't make enough donuts. Well, then buy another frickin' fryer and make more donuts. It's not that hard. They have a winning formula.
I think it's harder than you think, but I think they're doing a good job.
It's easier than you think. It might be harder than I think, but I would equally agree that it's easier than you think to expand. Businesses are expanding all the time. And people want to work in an industry like this. They love to sit on their ass and flip magazines all day for money. You can't tell me that you couldn't put a sign. CGC could put a sign in their front yard and say, we're going to cut turnaround times in half, and we need to double our workforce in order to do it. And the line to grade books, to people to submit books, would all move from submitting their books to getting in line to get hired by HR. That's what would happen.
I think you're in the wrong line of business. You need to go apply for CEO of CGC, because it sounds like you are able to get reasonable prices, eliminating Newton rings, and 3-week turnaround on all books. You know, they need to hire you for CEO. That's what I think.
I never said
short of having Bub as CEO of CGC, I think they're doing a good job. And you know, I don't think it's as easy as just put a sign in the window that says now hiring graders, and people walk in and fill out an application and now you're a grader. I don't think it's as easy as that, but I think they are adding people, they're adding staff, they're adding facilities, they are expanding. They're getting millions and millions of books. The volume of books is it never stops, and it's always increasing exponentially. People are sending moderns in like there's no tomorrow. And it's the con season. There's like millions of books being sent in. Yeah, you can increase the workforce, but I don't think it's as easy as you think. I think they're doing a good job, but 3 week turnaround, man, that would be like record breaking.
I don't think it's nothing. First of all, nothing is impossible. They're in a service industry. Their product is two pieces of acrylic stuck together. It's super simple. You know, a couple of hundred more machines and they can crank these suckers out 50 times faster. It really, there's no way that by increasing workforce, increasing production facility, and they would naturally increase turnaround time. It would have to be.
Yeah, I
And
know, but I mean,
maybe
you need
they would run through all this bad
professionals,
stock
though.
Newton rings that they got a little faster.
Well, the Newton ring is a separate issue. That could be solved instantly, I think, just by changing materials or suppliers. So I don't know. It's yet to be seen how they handle that. But the grading thing, I think it's a little more dynamic than you think it is. It's it's not as easy to just hire professional graders. There's more comics to grade than there are professional graders to hire right now. You can do an apprenticeship program. You can get people who have education and training. You can lure people away from museums and other document places and archival places. They
lure people from museums.
Yeah, I mean, museums have.
I don't think the guy dusting off the bones at the Natural Museum of Natural History is going to go grade comics.
Well, I was thinking like Library of Congress, somebody that is a professional working in
I think
as an archivist.
I don't know. I agree. If you're talking about professional archivists, yeah, you're not going to lure them over with the $14 an hour or whatever they're looking to pay at CGC. But what I'm saying is if you open up the doors and say, okay, we have a program by which we're going to train you guys. First of all, every grader there has been trained to some degree at some time. You can tell me it takes 20 years to get good at what they're doing. I'm not buying it. Then they're slow learners and they were probably crappy to begin with. They should go back to making donuts across the street. I think that you should get people who have an aptitude, and there's many industries that run aptitude tests, and you can easily look, here's 10 books. Let's see how you are at grading these 10 books. And then if they get them all the same grade that we would have put through our other 3 professional graders, then maybe we've got something we can work with here. And my guess is with all the people arguing about the way grades are, most people are within a half point to a point of each other on what they think a book is already, without all that super hyper professionalism, and apprenticeship behind it. So I think that you can most easily be able to get some people with a little bit of qualification and a little bit of aptitude testing to then funnel into the system and work them out and just get them learning what they're doing, at least polishing cases. You can't tell me they couldn't have hired a couple of people in quality control to make sure that your 4 books didn't come back with big scratches.
Yeah, I mean, that's an issue that doesn't have anything to do with the size of the workforce. I mean,
yes, it does.
They
have no excuse for getting those books out the way that they did, except that they didn't have qualified quality control people, which can be made for sure, or enough time to look at them.
Well, anybody who saw that case, even the person shipping that was packing them, anybody that saw those scratches, it shouldn't have gone out to a customer. So I don't know what happened. They should have
paid those people better. They should be increasing their wages in order to make them give a damn a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, I don't have a problem with their turnaround times, but if with CBCS turnaround times at like 6 and 7 months, what's the incentive for CGC to make theirs higher than 2? You know what I mean? They're already killing it compared to the competition. So there'll be other companies that come along. There'll be new grading companies and more competition. This is a young industry. People think it's like an old industry and it's, these are the 3 and that's it. This is a very young industry and really hasn't been, a huge industry, other than in the last decade, really. So we're looking at a very young industry. Everything they do is cutting edge. It's never been done before. Any new technology is the first time it's been used because slabbing has never been used ever before 2000. So this is a very new industry, new product, new processes for slabbing. There's a lot more changes to come. We're at the very beginning of an industry that's probably going to be around for a long time. There's going to be a lot of companies involved in this at some point. We're at the very early stages. There's 2 of them and, a third that's had, significant reputation issues. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. CGC is the best right now, but yeah, I hear you. I mean, trust me, I would love to have 3 week turnarounds. That'd be awesome. I would send, you could send books in for a lower cost with a 3 week turnaround. Yeah, I'd love it.
That's it. It's opening up. We're calling it BUB Grading Company. And that stands for Bub, by the way. BUB Grading Company. I'm going to make you my chief of, what do you want to be chief of? Quality control, donut delivery, well, definitely shipping.
I will be
use
quality
FedEx for
control and shipping. Yeah, because I'll make sure everything looks good before it goes out to a customer, and it'll be.
And I want you to grade books too. You got to grade books too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll grade books. I'm down.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're going to start this.
I don't want to be on the phones. I don't want to do customer service.
Don't worry. We got all kinds of people that don't want to do anything but sit on their butt and answer phones. That line is already out to the building waiting to. There's people in my yard right now that I bet I could pull into my house and say, "Hey, would you answer this phone if they ring?" They're like, "Yeah, man, I'm down." It wouldn't be too hard.
I'll do anything but answer the phones over there. But
yeah, we got this, man. Don't worry. And I tell you, all we're gonna do is we're gonna combine all the best of all the other companies. We'll grade it ourselves so we know that they'll be good. We've had months of experience, if not weeks. And then we're going to go and we're going to just take all PGX grades. We're going to crack the case and then we're going to reseal them with the correct grade. And boom, that's it. Bob's your uncle. Yeah. We're millionaires.
I'm down. And we can do some fancy printer work to get some fancy custom labels. I mean, people can design their own labels also. Obviously not the grade, but I mean, people design their own business cards and T-shirts online, on a website, on an app. We could do that for labels.
Yep. I like it. So
we can design it. People can put their whatever picture or logo. They can design on a label. We can put borders around the cases. You can do all. There's a lot you can do with this. Yeah.
And the first sign of scandal that BUB Comics comes under, we immediately pivot and we shift direction and we open up DS Comics, and I'll start ordering the donuts.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we've killed another hour beyond when we said we were ending. So,
wow.
Yeah, we're at 2 hours, so I've got to get off here at this point now.
Me too. So. All right, guys. Well, thank you, DS Comics, for joining me in the No Faces Comic Chat. Sorry Roger couldn't be here apparently to keep us on schedule. Yeah. So who knew that was one of his functions? Honestly, I thought the opposite. So anyway, thanks to everybody in the chat. Sorry you all had to put up with us for so long, but it's been fun anyway. And we will catch you later next week on No Faces Comic Chat. See you later and good night.
All right, good night, everyone. See you later, Bub.
See you, man.